I don't know when it started feeling like this, like I'm running on a treadmill that speeds up every month, and I'm too scared to step off because I don't know what's at the bottom if I fall. Maybe it was right after college, when the grace period on my student loans ended and I started getting those friendly but not really emails reminding me that repayment begins soon. Or maybe it was before that, back in school, when I worked 2 part-time jobs and still couldn't afford new shoes unless they were second-hand. Either way, I'm 27 now, and every month feels like a tightrope walk over an empty bank account. I work full-time as a project coordinator at a marketing firm, nothing glamorous, but it pays better than most of the jobs I had in my early 20s. I'm grateful for it. Honestly, I am. But grateful doesn't mean secure. Rent takes up more than half my paycheck. The rest gets chewed up by groceries, transit, bills, and debt payments. There's never anything left at the end of the month. I haven't had a savings account with more than $300 in it since I was 22. Right now, it's sitting at $83.47. That's after I pulled $40 from it last week just to buy a week's worth of groceries that might last 5 days if I'm careful. I think about money constantly. Every decision I make, every single one, is run through this filter of, can I afford this, and what will I have to give up if I say yes? Want to meet friends for a drink? That's easily $30 I don't really have. Need new clothes for work? I rotate the same 3 pairs of pants and hope no one notices. My winter coat is 5 years old, the zipper's broken, and I just layer underneath it and tell myself it's fine. I'm tired. Not just physically, though that too. But a kind of soul-deep tired that comes from living in a world where you always feel like you're behind. Like you're just not doing adulthood right. I see people on social media going on trips, buying homes, eating out at nice restaurants, and I feel this mixture of envy and shame. I tell myself it's just curated content, but it still gets to me. It's like I'm stuck in place, and everyone else got the map I somehow missed. The hardest part is that I used to dream big. I wanted to go back to school for counseling, maybe open a community space that offered affordable therapy. I imagined having a little apartment with sunlight, a cat, maybe even a balcony where I could grow herbs. I pictured a life where I didn't wake up every morning and mentally scan the list of bills I can maybe pay late without too much of a fee. Now, my dreams feel like old clothes I've outgrown. I still keep them in the closet, just in case. But I don't take them out anymore. There's a kind of grief in that. In watching the version of your life you hoped for drift further out of reach. Sometimes I get angry, not just at myself, but at the whole system. How everything costs more than it did even a year ago, but wages haven't moved. My rent went up $200 last year. Eggs cost twice what they did in 2022. My salary? Up by maybe 3%, which barely covers anything. I've done everything I was supposed to. Went to college. Got a degree. Work hard. Show up. Be dependable. But the finish line keeps moving. And I don't even want luxury, I just want breathing room. A little space to rest. To not panic every time my phone buzzes with a new email from my bank or a bill reminder. I've gotten good at coping in small ways. I cook every meal at home. I use the library for books and movies. I barter where I can, helping friends with resumes in exchange for haircuts or baked goods. I find joy in small, quiet things, morning coffee, a podcast on the bus, phone calls with my sister. It helps. It really does. But it doesn't fix it. Sometimes I wonder how different things would be if I didn't have debt. If I could actually save. If I had the kind of family safety net a few of my friends do, parents who could help with rent or co-sign a loan. But I don't. My parents are struggling too, living paycheck to paycheck like I am. We help each other out when we can, but it's like passing the same $20 bill around every month. The most vulnerable thing I'll admit is that some days, I feel like a failure. Not because I don't try, God knows I do, but because I internalize all the struggle as a reflection of who I am. Like maybe if I were just a bit smarter, or more driven, or chose a more profitable major, I'd be okay. I know that's not true, not really. The system is broken. But knowing it intellectually doesn't always stop the emotional weight from settling on my chest at night. And yet, I'm still here. Still showing up. Still dreaming, even if quietly. Maybe one day I'll have that balcony. Maybe I'll go back to school, even if it takes another 10 years. I hold on to hope like it's the last dollar in my pocket, wrinkled, worn, but still good. Still worth something. I don't need a lot. I never did. But I want to stop surviving and start living. I want a future that feels possible, not just imaginary. I want to believe that all this trying will eventually mean something. Until then, I keep going. One day, one meal, one unpaid bill at a time. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. Every morning feels like a battle I'm not sure I can win. My alarm goes off at 6:30 a.m., and I know I have to get up. I can feel the weight of the day already pressing down on me. The pressure is constant, like I'm holding my breath underwater, just waiting for the surface to come into view. But it never does. I roll out of bed, and for a moment, I lie on the floor, staring at the ceiling. The room is dark, the only light coming from the dim glow of my phone. Another reminder. Another email from the bank, another credit card bill, another reminder that I'm treading water and sinking at the same time. I swipe through the screen, opening my bank app. My heart sinks when I see the balance. It's even lower than I expected. I'm not surprised, this is how it always is. I've gotten used to it by now, this strange sense of disappointment that doesn't even feel surprising anymore. When I was younger, I had dreams, big ones. I thought I'd have a steady job, a nice apartment, maybe even a house by now. I thought I'd have my life together, be able to travel, enjoy the things I've always wanted. But those dreams have been buried under piles of bills, student loans, and the constant pressure of making ends meet. I grab a quick shower, but the water feels cold, like my entire body is rejecting the idea of facing another day. I've been working nonstop for months, but nothing changes. Expenses rise faster than my income, and I'm caught in a cycle I can't escape from. Every decision I make now revolves around money. Can I afford this? Should I put this on my credit card? Will I have enough for rent? After getting dressed, I make a cup of coffee and try to think about the day ahead. I've learned to fake it. I've gotten good at pretending everything is fine when it's not. I smile when I greet people, laugh at jokes, and pretend that I don't feel like I'm barely holding it all together. But underneath, I'm drowning. At work, I sit at my desk, answering emails and attending meetings, but my mind keeps wandering back to the same question: how did it get like this? How did I end up in this place, where I work harder than I ever thought possible, yet I still can't make it work? I've tried everything. I cut back on expenses, I gave up the things I used to enjoy, like eating out with friends or going on little trips. But nothing ever seems to get me ahead. The rent goes up, gas prices rise, utilities creep higher, and every month, it feels like the money I earn just disappears before I even get a chance to use it. I know people say that it's supposed to get easier with time, that if you work hard enough, you'll get there. But I'm not so sure anymore. I'm 27 and barely making it, with student loans hanging over me like a shadow. Some days, I can't help but wonder if this is just the way life is. Am I always going to be struggling? Will I ever have the freedom to live without constantly looking over my shoulder at the next bill that's due? I try to distract myself with small comforts. I make lists, endless lists of things I need to do. I write down my goals and dreams, hoping that seeing them in front of me will help me stay motivated. But the truth is, it's hard to dream when it feels like everything I want is always just out of reach. There's a gnawing feeling in the back of my mind that I've had to push down, one too many times, that says I'm not good enough because I can't get ahead. The hardest part is realizing how much I've had to postpone. I put off seeing my family because I can't afford the time off. I've canceled plans with friends because I can't justify spending money on a night out when there's rent to pay. I can't even remember the last time I took a real vacation, not that I could afford one anyway. I used to think I'd have a home of my own by now. I used to picture myself decorating a place, throwing dinner parties, having my own space to relax and unwind. But now, I just think about how much rent takes out of my paycheck each month and how it never gets any easier. I know I'm not the only one struggling. I see it all around me. Friends are working 2 jobs, side hustles, just to keep up. It's not that we don't want to succeed. It's just that the system feels broken. It feels like the game is rigged in favor of people who already have money, people who don't need to worry about how they'll pay their bills next month. People who can take vacations, buy houses, start families without constantly wondering if they'll make it through the next payday. I cope by trying to stay in the moment. I tell myself that it won't be like this forever, that someday things will improve. But the truth is, I'm not sure if that will ever happen. Every time I start to feel like I'm getting ahead, something else happens, a car repair, a medical bill, a sudden increase in rent, and I'm right back where I started. And yet, I keep going. I don't know what else to do. I can't give up. But I'm tired. So tired. There's a weight on me every day, and sometimes it feels like it's crushing me. I look at my friends, at people who seem to have it all figured out, and I can't help but feel envious. They don't seem to have the same worries that I do. They're not calculating how much gas they can afford to buy or wondering how they'll pay off their credit card bill this month. I remind myself that I'm doing the best I can. That's all I can do, right? I keep my head down, keep pushing, and try to convince myself that there's light at the end of the tunnel. But some days, the tunnel feels so long. Some days, I wonder if it's even worth it. But for now, I keep going. Because what else can I do? Maybe things will get better. Maybe I'll finally find a way to make my dreams a reality. Maybe someday I'll be able to look back at this time and say, I made it through. But right now, I'm just trying to make it through today. There's this constant tightness in my chest that comes every time I open my bank account app. I don't even have to check the balance to know it's going to be low. It's always low. No amount of budgeting or careful planning seems to keep up with the expenses that just keep creeping higher, month after month. I've been trying to make sense of all of it, how a world that once felt full of potential, hope, and dreams now feels like a trap, like I'm a hamster on a wheel, running as fast as I can but never getting anywhere. I'm 25, and I should have it together by now. That's what I was told, anyway. But I don't. And I'm starting to wonder if I ever will. I've always been good with money, or at least I thought I was. I grew up with parents who had to stretch every dollar, who sat down with us on the kitchen table to go over the bills, explaining why we couldn't have the things we wanted or go on the trips we dreamed of. I saw firsthand the stress, the long hours, and the careful planning it took just to make ends meet. So when I got my first job out of college, I promised myself that I'd be different. I'd avoid the mistakes, save a little bit, invest in my future. I thought it would be enough. But somewhere along the way, things got harder. The rent went up. The grocery prices shot through the roof. Gas prices were insane, and even though I don't drive much, just filling up my car once every couple of weeks feels like a punch to the gut. And don't even get me started on student loans. The monthly payment doesn't even touch the interest, and yet it feels like a weight around my neck that I can't shake. Every time I pay it, it feels like I'm throwing money into a bottomless pit. At first, I tried to ignore it. I'd tell myself, it's fine. I'm fine. I'd make do, cut back on the things that didn't matter, and focus on the long-term goal, financial freedom, success, stability. But that's the problem, isn't it? Long-term has become this nebulous, far-off dream that's always just out of reach. Every day is about survival, about making sure I don't fall too far behind. The future is a hazy blur, something I tell myself I'll deal with once I can breathe a little. But right now, I can't breathe. The little things add up. I used to love cooking, spending time in the kitchen making elaborate meals. Now, I barely have the energy to even open the fridge. Half the time, I end up buying something cheap, something quick, something that doesn't require any effort, usually a frozen pizza or some kind of pre-made pasta. I used to be the person who would go to the farmer's market on weekends, browsing for fresh produce and chatting with the vendors. But the prices there? They're like a cruel joke. So I shop at the discount stores, buying whatever's on sale and hoping it lasts the week. There's no joy in it anymore, no creativity. Just necessity. I used to think I'd be able to travel, see the world, experience new things. I'd fantasize about taking a spontaneous trip to some far-off country, just booking a flight and going. But every time I get close to planning something, reality hits me. Plane tickets are expensive. Hotels cost too much. Even the thought of paying for an Airbnb or a weekend getaway feels like I'm throwing away money I don't have. Instead, I stay in my tiny apartment, staring out the window at the city that's always buzzing with life, wondering how everyone else manages to live it up while I'm stuck here, trying to scrape by. I've started to feel like a failure. My friends are getting promotions, moving into bigger apartments, going on trips abroad. They talk about their future plans, their dreams, their ambitions, and I sit there, nodding, pretending I'm not dying a little inside. I don't want to burden anyone with my problems, so I smile and make small talk, even though inside, I'm filled with this gnawing sense of inadequacy. I used to have dreams too. Big ones. Ones that felt possible. But now they feel like fantasies, so far away, so unrealistic in a world where my income barely covers the basics. How can I dream when every day is just about getting by? Sometimes, I catch myself imagining a life where money isn't always the first thing I think about when I wake up. Where I'm not constantly calculating whether I can afford to go out for a coffee with a friend or if I should just stay home and save that $5. I fantasize about being able to take a week off from work without worrying about the bills piling up, or even taking a long weekend trip just to get away from the grind. But those thoughts are fleeting, like something I'm not allowed to touch. I know better than to indulge in such fantasies because the reality is, there's no room for them. What hurts the most is the sense of being stuck. Every day feels like I'm making the same choices. Do I pay for groceries or do I pay my phone bill? Do I skip a meal to save a few bucks, or do I put it on my credit card and hope I can pay it off before the interest compounds? I wish I could just have 1 month where I didn't feel this way, where I could walk into a store and not be terrified of seeing the prices. Where I didn't feel guilty for buying a simple pleasure, like a nice book or a new jacket, something I once would have bought without a second thought. But the truth is, the world feels like it's built to keep people like me down. The system rewards those who have money and punishes those who don't. There's no room for people like me to move ahead, not unless I make some big sacrifice, take a huge risk, or luck into some great opportunity. And right now, none of those things feel like they're coming anytime soon. I try to cope. I've taken up journaling, mostly just to get the overwhelming weight of it all out of my head. I try to be grateful for the small things, like when I get a rare bonus at work or when a friend treats me to lunch. I remind myself that it could be worse, that at least I have a job and a roof over my head. But it doesn't change the fact that I feel like I'm just surviving, not living. And that's exhausting. I still have dreams, though. They're quieter now, buried under the noise of bills and responsibilities, but they're there. I want to own a house, not just rent some cramped apartment. I want to travel, to see places that feel like more than a dream. I want to wake up one day and not feel like I'm already behind. I want to be able to enjoy life, to feel like I have room to breathe, to hope, to grow. But for now, I'll just keep going. Keep working. Keep scraping by. Because what else is there to do? I'll keep holding on to those dreams, no matter how distant they seem, because maybe someday they'll come true. Maybe. But it doesn't feel likely. Not right now. Right now, all I can do is take it day by day, keep my head down, and try to get through it. The thing is, I'm tired. Tired of pretending everything's fine. Tired of the constant pressure. Tired of feeling stuck in a system that feels designed to push me down. But I'm still here, still fighting, still hoping that someday things will change. Even if that someday feels like it's a long way off. Maybe that's all we can do, hope. I've been thinking about money a lot lately. Not in the way you think, like dreaming about getting rich or winning the lottery, but in that way where it's always there, always looming over every decision I make. It's like this constant hum in the background, reminding me that everything I do is tied to some number, some amount of money, and that number's always too big. It's not that I want a luxurious life. I just want a life that doesn't feel like it's slipping away because I can't keep up with the bills. I'm 25. I graduated a few years ago, thinking the world was going to be this open field full of possibilities. I had dreams. A lot of them. I thought I'd land a solid job right away, start saving, travel, maybe even buy a house one day. It's funny now when I look back. I was so naive. At first, it seemed like I was doing okay. I found a decent job after graduation, entry level, sure, but it paid enough to get by. Rent was manageable, groceries were affordable, and I didn't have to count every penny. But that feeling? That feeling of everything being manageable? It didn't last long. The first sign something was wrong was when rent went up. It wasn't a huge jump, just a few $100s. But that was enough to make me do a double take. My income didn't change, and I couldn't really ask for more hours at work. So, I started cutting back on things. The little things, like not going out to eat anymore, or skipping the occasional night out with friends. I stopped buying clothes unless they were on sale, and I learned to make do with what I had. But it didn't stop there. The next thing to rise was gas prices. Then utilities. Then food. It felt like the world was conspiring to make everything more expensive, while I was stuck in a cycle where my paycheck was the same, and nothing was going up except the bills. I don't even know how it happened, but suddenly I was scraping by. Not doing fine anymore, but surviving. There's a difference. When you're surviving, you're making choices every single day about what you can afford, and it's exhausting. I guess it's easy for people to say, just budget better or pick up a side hustle. But you try juggling a full-time job, a part-time job, and still having time to keep your mental health intact. I've tried. I've looked at ways to make extra cash. I've thought about driving for Uber or doing freelance work, but every time I think about it, I get tired. I'm just too drained. I want to live my life, not spend it working myself into the ground. And the longer I try to make the numbers work, the more I feel like I'm getting stuck in this trap. Sometimes I look at my bank account, and I can't believe how quickly it empties. I've gotten used to the sinking feeling I get every time I check my balance. It's always the same. A couple $100 left after bills. I don't even get the luxury of a payday anymore, because the second that paycheck hits, it's already spoken for. Rent. Utilities. Student loan payments. It's gone, almost before I even see it. And then there's food, transportation, the occasional unexpected expense, and if I'm being real, I'm usually running on fumes by the end of the month. There are days when I skip meals just to make sure I can pay for the essentials. And don't even get me started on credit cards. At this point, they're more like a lifeline I can't afford to keep using, but I have to anyway. They're the only way I can handle the gaps. It's hard to explain the weight of all this to anyone who doesn't get it. I've tried. I've talked to friends, but I know they don't always understand. Most of them still live at home or have families who help them out when things get tough. For me? There's no backup. I'm it. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, but sometimes it's just too much. The pressure. The constant worry about what's coming next. There's this voice in my head, always reminding me that no matter how hard I work, it feels like I'll never catch up. Emotionally, I've been on a roller coaster. Some days, I feel okay. I'm just going through the motions, doing what I can, and trying not to focus on how much further behind I am than I expected to be. But other days? Other days, it feels like I'm suffocating. I've lost track of how many nights I've laid awake staring at the ceiling, feeling this heaviness in my chest, wondering how I'm going to make it to the next paycheck. Wondering how I'm going to keep going when every single month feels like I'm drowning just a little bit more. There are dreams I had when I was younger, dreams of travel, of building a career that wasn't just about paying bills, of making something of myself that wasn't tied to the anxiety of living paycheck to paycheck. But every time I start to think about them, I have to remind myself of what's real. What's practical. I can't afford to go on a vacation. I can't afford to invest in the hobbies that once brought me joy, because I'm too busy trying to keep my head above water. I wanted to learn new skills, maybe go back to school, but that's a fantasy now. With student loans still hanging over me, it feels like there's no way I could take on more debt. What does the future look like? I don't even know anymore. There's a part of me that hopes things will get better. Maybe wages will go up. Maybe the economy will turn around. But the realist in me knows that's just wishful thinking. It feels like I'm caught in this cycle where everything I work for gets chipped away at by a system that doesn't care. I can't help but feel like I'm trapped in a loop of never being able to get ahead. Even if I manage to climb a little, there's always something new that makes it harder to keep my footing. I cope the best I can. I try to focus on the little things that bring me peace, walks in the park, reading, talking to people who get it. But even that's hard. Sometimes it feels like I'm surrounded by people who are doing better, living life without the constant weight of financial pressure. And I feel alone in this struggle. It's like I'm stuck on this island, watching everyone else float by. But there are days when I try to hold on to hope. I remind myself that this isn't forever, even though it feels like it. Maybe things will change. Maybe one day I'll have the chance to breathe again, to stop worrying about the next bill, and just live. Until then, though, all I can do is keep going, keep pushing through, and hope that there's something on the other side of this. Something better. I just want a future where I'm not chained to the fear of never having enough. I want to dream again, to feel like I can plan for a life I'm excited about. But for now, I'm here. Stuck in this moment. Trying to survive, one day at a time. Maybe one day, things will feel different. Maybe one day, I'll look back at this and see it as the turning point. Until then, I'll keep pushing forward, even if it feels like I'm going nowhere. I'll keep holding on to that sliver of hope that someday, somehow, it'll get better. Because what else can I do? I never used to think so much about money. I mean, not like this, not like every single decision has to be weighed against a bank balance that never seems to breathe. I used to think life was something you could build slowly. Step by step. But now it feels like I'm just trying to patch leaks on a sinking boat. There's no step forward, only sideways or back. I'm 27. I have a degree in communications from a state university I still owe $34,000 for. I live in a one-bedroom apartment I share with my friend Sam. We weren't close in college, but we both needed a roommate who wouldn't judge when rent was late or when dinner was microwaved rice for the third night in a row. It's not like I thought I'd be rich. But I didn't think I'd still be living like a student, except now with more anxiety and fewer naps. I work full-time, content writing for a small marketing agency. It sounds fancier than it is. I write blog posts about dental implants and pest control. The job pays $20 an hour, and I don't get benefits. When I got the offer 2 years ago, I cried with relief. Now I wonder how long I can do this before something breaks. Every morning, I wake up and check my bank app before I even get out of bed. It's like a reflex now. I watch every automatic withdrawal, Spotify, student loans, my phone bill, and feel a shot of adrenaline like I'm being robbed in real time. The worst is around the 20th of the month, after rent is paid, when the cushion is thinnest. One unexpected thing, a flat tire, a medical bill, even just running out of groceries before payday, and I'm thrown off completely. Sometimes I lie and say I'm not hungry when I'm out with friends, just so I don't have to spend $12 on a sandwich. They joke about adulting and how hard it is, but I can't tell if they really get it. I don't think they know I ration toilet paper or that I've skipped turning on the heat in winter because the electric bill freaked me out. There's this constant hum in the back of my mind that never goes quiet. It's the sound of mental math. If I cut the grocery bill by $10, I can afford the copay. If I cancel Netflix, I can buy tampons and shampoo. I've learned tricks, though. Little survival hacks. I shop at Aldi and make a week's worth of meals from 2 cans of beans, frozen vegetables, and rice. I use the library for internet when mine gets shut off. I sell old clothes on Poshmark, take surveys for pennies, and scan receipts into rebate apps. My life is a patchwork of half measures and temporary fixes. But the weight of it? It's heavy. Always. I used to dream about traveling. Greece, Japan, Morocco, places I read about in books or saw in movies. I wanted to hike in Patagonia and eat street food in Thailand. I wanted to rent a little cottage somewhere by the sea and write a novel. Now I just dream of stability. A savings account with more than 2 digits. Health insurance I don't have to fight for. A day where money isn't the first and last thing I think about. I try not to resent people who are better off, but it's hard. The influencers who get paid to work from beaches, the classmates with help from their parents, the people who call my life a phase. I don't think they understand how exhausting it is to constantly calculate your survival. To know that every dollar you spend is a decision that could ripple for weeks. To wonder if you'll ever be able to afford a kid, or a house, or a retirement that isn't just working until you die. The worst part is how ashamed I feel. Like it's my fault for not having figured it out. As if being poor is some moral failure instead of a system that keeps moving the goalposts. Wages stay flat, but rent doesn't. Eggs are $5 a dozen. My debt grows with interest faster than I can chip away at it. I keep hearing about how millennials and Gen Z are the most educated generations, but we're also the most broke. What's the point of a degree if the jobs it unlocks barely cover living costs? Some days, I fantasize about quitting it all. Moving to a cabin in the woods, growing my own food, going off-grid. But that takes money, too. Everything takes money. That's the trap. You need it to escape it. And yet, I keep going. I don't know if that makes me stubborn or stupid or just human. I keep working. I keep writing. I find moments of peace in between the hustle, in a long walk, a good book, a late-night phone call with my sister. I cling to the idea that things can change, that someday the math might start to work out. That I'll be able to breathe without checking my bank account first. Until then, I do what I can. I celebrate the little wins, paying off a credit card, finding a $5 bill in an old coat, getting through a month without borrowing from someone. I remind myself that survival is a form of resistance. That I'm not lazy or broken. Just tired. Just trying. And maybe that's okay, for now. I didn't realize how heavy life could feel until I started keeping a spreadsheet of my groceries. Every week, I open the same Google Sheet, scroll to the latest row, and plug in what I spent, down to the last cent. I track eggs, oat milk, rice, toothpaste. I even calculate cost per serving like I'm some overworked financial analyst, except instead of advising million-dollar clients, I'm trying to figure out if I can afford strawberries and toilet paper in the same week. I'm 27. I work full-time at a nonprofit in community outreach, what people used to call good, honest work. It pays $43,000 a year before taxes. That's $2,700 a month, give or take, after everything. My rent is $1,650. Utilities tack on another $130. The internet is $60. Student loans are $298 a month again now that the freeze ended. After groceries, gas, phone, insurance, and the random things that break or disappear or just show up as unexpected charges, I usually end up with $50 $100 left, if I'm lucky. I used to dream about traveling. I wanted to see Morocco. I wanted to learn Portuguese in Lisbon. I had this vision of myself sitting in a narrow alley cafe somewhere, sipping coffee I didn't have to budget for, laughing with strangers turned friends. Now, I just dream about making it to the next paycheck without overdrafting my account. It's not that I'm careless. I do everything right, at least according to the advice I've soaked up like gospel from finance blogs and TikTok money coaches. I don't order takeout. I haven't bought new clothes in almost a year. I meal prep lentil soup in bulk. I ride the bus when I can. I use a budgeting app that pings me when I get too close to my fun spending limit, which is usually about $30 a month, so even a matinee movie is a question of priorities. It's like living inside a math equation that never balances. Expenses inch up each month, grocery prices rise, rent hikes sneak in, car repairs pop up out of nowhere, and my salary sits still, smug and unmoving. There's no promotion in sight, not here. I'm told I should be grateful to have a job that aligns with my values. I am grateful. But I'm also tired. Emotionally, the pressure is a quiet weight that never leaves. I wake up in the middle of the night sometimes, heart racing, convinced I forgot to pay something or that I've miscalculated and I'll be short this month. I lie there in the dark doing math in my head, mentally shaving off things I can live without. It's like playing financial Jenga, one wrong move, one unexpected bill, and the whole tower falls. I'm embarrassed by how much space money takes up in my mind. I resent how it colors every decision. Friends want to go out for a birthday dinner? I panic before I say yes. The cheapest entree might still be $18. With tip, that's my gas money for the week. I've gotten good at making excuses. I have a lot of work, I'm not feeling well, next time, for sure, but it eats at me. I want to be present. I want to celebrate with people I care about. But too often, my wallet answers before I do. And dating? Forget it. I tried a couple of times. But the second or third date always leads to something awkward, splitting a check I can't afford, an invitation to go away for the weekend that I have to turn down, or just the slow realization that I can't be the kind of spontaneous, easygoing person people want to fall in love with. Romance, I've learned, is expensive. Not just the events, but the mindset. It requires room to breathe, to relax, to feel like you have something to offer besides your budgeting prowess and anxiety. Sometimes I get angry, not at anyone in particular, but at the system that made this normal. How did we get to a point where doing everything right still leaves people barely scraping by? Where rent takes half your paycheck, and a dental cleaning feels like a luxury? My parents talk about how they bought their first house at 27. I'm just trying to keep my car running past 120,000 miles. I postpone things I used to take for granted. I haven't visited my family in months because flights are too expensive. I want to get my master's, but I can't imagine taking on more debt. I wanted to move to a city that inspires me, Portland, maybe, or Chicago, but the cost of living makes it laughable. Even the idea of owning a home someday feels like a fairy tale. Not in the happily ever after sense, but in the never going to happen sense. Still, I cope. I cling to the small rituals that make the days feel human, a $2 coffee from the bodega near my bus stop on Fridays. Free museum days. Swapping books with friends. A Spotify playlist that makes my tiny apartment feel like a world of its own. I journal, when I have the energy. I volunteer at a community garden on Saturdays, not because it'll ever pay the bills, but because it reminds me that there's still good in the world, still people trying to grow something real from the dirt. Some days I let myself imagine a different future. Maybe one where we don't normalize constant financial anxiety. Where work is valued and compensated accordingly. Where housing is affordable and student debt doesn't hang over your head like a curse. I don't think those dreams are radical, they're just human. But for now, I take it day by day. Spreadsheet by spreadsheet. I try to hold space for both realities, the one I live in, and the one I'm quietly, stubbornly hoping might still be possible. I used to think adulthood would feel different. I imagined something more stable, more purposeful. Something where the pieces click into place eventually: job, apartment, maybe a dog, a little money saved up, some peace. I didn't expect it to feel like trying to plug holes in a sinking boat with my bare hands. I'm 27. I work 2 jobs. One full-time doing customer service at a tech company, remote, which means I get to work in my pajamas but also means I never leave my apartment. The second is bartending a few nights a week at a restaurant that barely survived the pandemic. Together, I make enough to cover rent, groceries, and the minimum payments on my credit cards. Most months, that's it. There's no safety net. One flat tire, one dental emergency, one missed paycheck, and everything could unravel. Rent went up again last month. Not by much, just $125. But that tiny bump turned into a massive reorganization of my life. I canceled Netflix, stopped buying fresh fruit unless it's on sale, and switched from my favorite almond butter to the generic peanut stuff. I feel a ridiculous pang of guilt even writing that, like I'm admitting to being careless. But the truth is, I was already stretched so thin that a small change pulled the seams apart. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment in a transitional neighborhood, which is code for, there are new coffee shops and yoga studios on the same block where people dig through dumpsters and cops circle like vultures. My building is old and the walls are thin. I can hear the couple upstairs fighting, and I've memorized the exact pattern of footsteps from my neighbor's little girl when she's getting ready for school. It's not glamorous. But it's mine. Or at least it was. Now I'm trying to figure out if I can afford to move to a cheaper place with a roommate, or if I should risk staying and hope nothing else goes up. The worst part isn't even the stress. It's the shame. The feeling that everyone else figured out how to be an adult while I'm still doing math at the grocery store, choosing between eggs or toilet paper. I scroll through Instagram and see people from college buying homes, going to Bali, having weddings with candlelit tables and choreographed dances. I'm happy for them, really, but there's also this gnawing voice in my head that whispers, "You failed." It's not like I didn't try. I got a degree. I worked unpaid internships. I learned to write a decent cover letter and iron a blazer. I applied to jobs every night for almost a year after college and got ghosted so many times it felt like a second job. Eventually, I landed the customer service gig. It's decent pay, better than minimum wage. But after taxes, health insurance, and student loan payments, what's left isn't enough. And every year, prices rise while my paycheck stays the same. I got a 2% raise this year. Rent jumped 6%. My student loans are another weight I carry. I owe just over $42,000. I've paid every month without fail, and the number barely moves. The interest is like a parasite, it feeds no matter how hard I try to starve it. I sometimes fantasize about paying it all off just so I can see what my money might feel like in my own hands, rather than always owed to someone else. There are things I postponed. Things that feel out of reach now. I used to dream of getting a master's in psychology, working as a therapist, maybe even opening my own practice. But that would mean more debt, more time, and no income while I study. I also wanted to travel. I've never left the country. I thought by now I'd have seen at least one other continent. My passport arrived in the mail 4 years ago. It's still blank. Some days are harder than others. There are mornings I wake up with a tightness in my chest, thinking about everything I need to do just to break even. There are nights when I can't sleep because I'm running numbers in my head. I count down to payday like it's a lifeline. And I check my bank account daily, sometimes multiple times a day, even when I already know what's in it. As if staring at the numbers might make them change. But I'm still here. I'm still showing up. I make my bed most mornings. I call my mom when I feel like I'm drowning. I go for walks, even if it's just around the block. I cook when I can, simple meals like pasta with garlic and olive oil, or rice and beans with whatever frozen veggies are on sale. I keep a small notebook where I write things I'm grateful for. Some days the list is short: sunlight, coffee, my cat curled on the bed. But it's something. There's a quiet kind of resilience in surviving like this. No one hands you a medal for making rent or finding a $3 bottle of shampoo that doesn't destroy your hair. But those things matter. They're small victories in a war most people don't even realize we're fighting. I try to hold on to hope. Not the kind that's naive or sugar-coated, but the gritty, stubborn kind. The hope that maybe someday I won't have to live with this constant knot in my stomach. That I'll be able to save, to breathe, to dream without calculating how much it will cost. I want to believe in a future where people like me aren't always one step behind, where we don't have to sacrifice our health, our passions, or our sanity just to stay afloat. I want to live in a world where work pays enough to live on, where housing isn't a luxury, where stability isn't just for the lucky few. Until then, I keep going. I put on my headset for another day of polite customer complaints. I smile at bar regulars who tip in crumpled bills. I laugh when I can. I cry when I need to. I keep surviving, even when it feels like the system is designed to make that feel impossible. And maybe, just maybe, someday that will be enough to build something better. The hardest part of waking up every day isn't the alarm. It's the realization that nothing's changed. The bills are still there, the rent is still due, and my bank account is still hovering somewhere near zero. Every day, I ask myself how I ended up here. At 27, I feel like I should be further along. I should have a steady income, a savings account that's more than just a reminder of what's missing, and a sense of direction. Instead, I feel like I'm treading water, fighting a current that's only getting stronger. I drag myself out of bed, rubbing my eyes, already exhausted. It's a strange kind of tiredness, the type that doesn't go away with sleep. The weight of stress lingers in my chest. Even though I've learned to live with it, it doesn't make it any easier. Every day feels like a balancing act, one I'm bound to lose eventually. The question isn't if I'll fall behind, it's when. I can't even remember the last time I didn't worry about money. It's always there, lurking. It's in the coffee I grab on the way to work, in the decisions I make about what groceries to buy, in the texts I get from my mom asking if I'm okay. She knows I'm struggling, but I don't want to burden her with it. I've gotten good at hiding it, at pretending that I'm managing even though I'm barely keeping my head above water. At work, I do my best to focus, but it's hard. There's this constant background noise in my mind: what if this bill goes unpaid? What if I can't cover next month's rent? What if I have to dip into my credit card again, and it keeps spiraling out of control? The anxiety gnaws at me all day, and it's hard to shake. I know I'm not alone. I know so many of my friends are in the same boat. But that doesn't make it easier. It just makes it feel like we're all stuck in a system that's working against us, no matter how hard we try to swim. I used to dream about traveling. I used to think that by now, I'd have the freedom to take a weekend trip somewhere, or even take a longer vacation. It seemed like the kind of thing that would just come naturally once I had a stable job, maybe even a little extra money to put away. But here I am, no vacation fund, no getaway plans. Every dollar I make goes to the basics. Rent, utilities, food. Even those things seem to be increasing faster than my paycheck can keep up. I remember hearing people talk about the American dream, but I've never been able to find it. It feels like a lie we were all sold, only to realize that the price of it all is too high for most of us to ever reach. At the grocery store, I find myself scanning the shelves for anything that's on sale. I used to buy what I wanted, but now I buy what I can afford. My meals are simple: rice, beans, pasta, things that stretch as far as possible. I keep the receipts, trying to track where the money goes, but it never seems to add up. I keep telling myself that it's just temporary, that things will get better once I get a raise or find a second job, but deep down, I know that's not how it works. The costs keep rising. The rent goes up every year, my student loans never get smaller, and the prices at the store keep climbing. Some days, I feel like I'm just existing, not really living. I avoid checking my bank account because I already know the answer. I don't want to face the reality of how close I am to the edge. The credit card bills are piling up, and I'm just trying to make the minimum payments. I tell myself that one day I'll get ahead, that I'll catch a break, but it's hard to believe that when the bills never stop coming. There's this quiet, constant pressure that weighs on me, making it hard to breathe. It's not just the financial pressure, it's the mental exhaustion of always thinking ahead, always wondering if today will be the day I can't make it work. And then there's the guilt. I know I'm doing my best, but I feel like it's never enough. My friends, most of them, don't seem to have these same worries. They're buying new clothes, going out to eat, planning trips. I see them on social media, and I can't help but feel a pang of jealousy. I want to be able to do those things too. I want to be able to enjoy life without constantly thinking about the cost. But that's not my reality. I've had to give up so much, plans with friends, going out for a drink, even just splurging on something small that would make me feel like I'm treating myself. It's all put on hold because I'm afraid that if I stop worrying, if I let my guard down for even a moment, everything will fall apart. I had dreams once. Big ones. I used to imagine myself owning a home, having a career that I loved, traveling to places I'd only seen in books or online. But now, my dreams feel so distant. They feel like someone else's life, a life I'll never get to live. Instead, I focus on survival, on paying the bills, on making sure I don't end up in debt that I can't crawl out of. It's like I'm on a treadmill, running as fast as I can, but never getting anywhere. I'm not sure how long I can keep going like this. I keep telling myself it'll get better, that things will change, that I just need to keep pushing through. But sometimes, I wonder if this is just the way it's going to be. Maybe this is it, working hard, day after day, just to stay afloat. Maybe the dreams I had are too big for someone like me. Maybe it's just the reality of being part of a generation that's stuck in a system that doesn't work for us. But no matter how much I feel trapped, I can't give up. I can't stop trying, even when the weight feels unbearable. So I push through another day, hoping that one day, I'll catch a break. Hoping that one day, the dreams I've put on hold won't feel so out of reach. Hoping that maybe, just maybe, there's still a chance for me to live the life I always thought I'd have. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. I wake up to the sound of my phone buzzing on the nightstand. It's still dark outside, and the room is cold. For a second, I forget where I am, but then the reality rushes back, my tiny apartment, cluttered and cramped, with peeling paint on the walls and a window that doesn't close properly. The buzzer is my alarm. I roll over, grab my phone, and squint at the screen. 6:45 a.m. Another day. I don't have the luxury of lying in bed for even a few minutes. I have to get up, get moving. The financial weight on my shoulders isn't something I can put off. I can't afford to waste a minute. The thought of checking my bank account fills me with dread, but I know I'll have to face it soon. I've been skirting around that reality for days now, hoping it'll somehow get better, even though I know it won't. Not anytime soon. I roll out of bed, and my feet hit the cold floor. My head throbs as I pull on a pair of jeans that barely fit anymore. A quick look in the mirror confirms what I already knew: I look tired. More than tired, actually, worn out. My eyes are puffy from lack of sleep, and the dark circles are a permanent feature now. I haven't felt rested in months. I haven't had the time to just relax or let my mind unwind. It's been a constant stream of work, bills, and more bills, with little room for anything else. I'm already late for work, but that's nothing new. It's been a while since I've had time to properly prepare a meal, so I grab an old granola bar from the cupboard and choke it down as I walk out the door. My car's parked across the street, and I have to drive because the bus doesn't come early enough to get me to work on time. The car is a relic, an old, beat-up Honda I've been driving for years, barely running but still holding on. I know it won't last forever, but the thought of car payments right now makes my stomach twist. I don't have the money for a new car. Hell, I barely have enough to cover my rent this month. The drive to work is a blur. My brain is already thinking about everything I need to do, answering emails, handling customer complaints, checking inventory. But then there's the looming reminder that my paycheck is barely going to cover my basic expenses. The rent's due in a week, and I'm already planning how I'm going to stretch the money to make it through the next month. I'm getting really good at juggling numbers in my head, convincing myself that things will work out. But deep down, I know I'm just one bad break away from being completely screwed. When I get to work, the day feels like a blur of tasks that don't matter in the long run. I'm good at my job, at least, I think I am, but there's always this underlying sense that no matter how well I perform, it's not enough. No one's paying me what I'm worth. I know I'm not the only one feeling this way. Everyone around me seems to be treading water, just barely keeping their heads above it. The economy is changing, and it's not changing for the better. The rising cost of living keeps dragging me down, and all I can do is keep my head down and try to survive. I've had to say no to so many things. My friends want to go out for drinks, or maybe take a weekend trip, but I can't afford it. The idea of spending money on anything that isn't essential feels irresponsible. So I just stay home. I've lost count of how many times I've told myself that next month will be better or that I'll get ahead eventually. But next month always looks the same as the last. Every time I get a raise or a bonus, it's eaten up by something else: higher rent, higher utility bills, higher grocery prices. The numbers don't stop climbing, but my paycheck stays exactly where it is. There was a time when I used to dream big. I thought I'd be further along by now, doing something I loved, living in a place I actually wanted to live, maybe even traveling or doing something adventurous. But those dreams feel distant now, as if they belong to someone else. The reality is that I'm stuck. I'm stuck in this cycle of working just to make ends meet, with no room to breathe. Every time I think I'm making progress, something else comes up to drag me back down. I remember the last time I looked at a travel website, just to remind myself of what's out there. I was sitting at my kitchen table, scrolling through pictures of tropical islands and bustling cities, and for a second, I felt that old sense of excitement. But then I glanced at the bills piled up on the table, and that excitement drained away. How could I even think about a vacation when I could barely afford my basic needs? I've stopped thinking about things like vacations, new clothes, or eating out. I've even started cutting back on things like coffee and toiletries. I get the cheapest brand of everything now: shampoo, soap, toothpaste. I feel guilty every time I buy something that isn't absolutely necessary, as if I'm failing in some way. And when I do allow myself a small indulgence, like a takeout meal after a long day at work, I feel the weight of it, as though that $15 is a luxury I can't afford. There are days when I feel like I'm failing. When the bills pile up and the stress becomes too much, I wonder what the point of all of it is. I'm working hard, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do, but it doesn't seem to matter. I'm not getting ahead. I'm not making progress. I'm just surviving, and the future seems like an endless loop of struggle. And yet, in the quiet moments when I can find a bit of peace, there's still a flicker of hope inside me. I remind myself that I'm doing the best I can. I'm not giving up. I haven't completely lost sight of my dreams, though they feel far away. Maybe one day I'll be able to get out of this cycle, maybe I'll find a way to save, to invest in something bigger than just getting through the month. But for now, all I can do is keep moving forward, even when it feels like I'm walking in circles. Sometimes, I lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, imagining a future where I'm not constantly worried about money. I picture a life where I can breathe without feeling like there's always something looming over me. But then, just as quickly, I push those thoughts away, because they feel like a fantasy, something that will never come true. I can't afford to dream right now. All I can do is survive. And yet, that small flicker of hope, no matter how faint, keeps me going. I tell myself that maybe someday things will change. Maybe someday, I'll have the freedom I've been longing for. But until then, I'll keep moving forward, one step at a time, hoping that something, somehow, will shift. But for now, I'm just here, trapped in this cycle, doing my best, and hoping that I'm not as far from my dreams as I feel. I just wish I knew when the weight of it all would finally let up. I wake up with the sound of my alarm piercing through the quiet morning, but I don't feel rested. I haven't for weeks, maybe months. The weight of the day ahead is already sinking into my bones before I even get out of bed. I rub my eyes and stare at the ceiling, trying to summon some kind of motivation, but all I feel is tired, tired of trying, tired of feeling like I'm always running behind, tired of being stuck. It's 7 a.m., and I've already got a laundry list of things to do in my head. Bills are piling up, and I can barely keep track of what's due when. It feels like every time I get paid, the money is already spent before it even hits my account. Rent. Utilities. Car insurance. Groceries. Then there's my student loan, which I'm doing my best not to think about, because it's so overwhelming, it's almost like it doesn't feel real. The interest keeps climbing, and no matter how much I pay off, it feels like the balance never moves. Sometimes I wonder if I'll be paying that off for the rest of my life. I drag myself out of bed, shuffling to the bathroom. The mirror shows a face I barely recognize anymore, tired eyes, dark circles. I've always tried to take care of myself, to eat right, get exercise, but it's hard when you're constantly just trying to survive. It feels like every choice I make comes with a price tag attached. Do I go for a run, or do I save the energy for work? Do I get groceries, or do I buy the medicine I need to get through this cold that's been dragging me down for days? It's a constant push-pull of choices that shouldn't even be choices. I grab a quick breakfast, a cup of coffee and half a bagel. I don't really have time for anything more. The microwave beeps as I heat up my leftovers from last night's dinner, which wasn't much more than a frozen meal that I could afford. I've learned to make do with whatever I can get on sale. I don't go out to eat. That's a luxury I can't afford. Sometimes I look at people posting photos of fancy brunches or vacations on social media, and it hits me all over again just how out of reach that kind of life feels. I finish getting ready, grabbing my work clothes from the laundry basket. I'm running low on clean options, but it's fine. I'll make it work. I always do. I've become an expert at stretching what I have, whether it's clothes, food, or time. The commute to work is the same every day, crowded, rushed, my mind spinning. I think about the emails I'll have to send, the phone calls I'll have to make, the endless to-do lists that never seem to get shorter. I'm in my mid-20s, but sometimes it feels like I'm already stuck in a grind that I can't escape. I'm working a job that doesn't pay me nearly enough, and every time I try to apply for something better, I get the same message: "Thank you for applying, but we've decided to move forward with other candidates." I used to have dreams. I used to think that one day, I'd be doing something that excited me, something that I felt proud of. I imagined traveling, maybe writing a book or starting my own business. But now, it's hard to even remember what those dreams were. I've put them all on hold. I don't have the energy to chase them anymore, not when every decision feels like it's a battle for survival. At work, I smile and nod. I try to keep my head down and do my job well, but every hour feels like a wait. I sit in front of a computer screen, answering emails and dealing with problems that never seem to end. Every so often, I look at the clock and realize how much of my life is being spent doing something that doesn't bring me joy, just making money so I can pay bills. It's like I'm stuck in a hamster wheel, and no matter how fast I run, I'm not getting anywhere. Lunchtime rolls around, and I find myself scrolling through job listings again. The positions I'd want are always just out of reach, either the pay is too low or the qualifications are too high. It's frustrating. I've been doing this for years, and it's still the same struggle. I've applied to so many places, hoping for something better, but it's like the world doesn't hear me. And every rejection chips away at my confidence, making me wonder if I'll ever be able to break free from this cycle. By the time I get home, it's dark. The apartment is cold, and the bills on the kitchen table are waiting for me. I take a deep breath before opening them. It's always the same sinking feeling, looking at the numbers, doing the mental math to see if I can cover everything this month. Sometimes I get creative, shifting things around, juggling payments to make sure nothing gets completely out of control. But it never feels like I'm getting ahead. I used to feel optimistic. I remember being younger and imagining a future where things would get easier. I thought that by now, I'd have more stability, more control. But instead, I'm constantly fighting to stay afloat, and it feels like the cost of living keeps rising while my income stays stuck in place. Every time gas prices go up or rent increases, I feel like I'm falling behind just a little more. I sit on the couch, staring at my phone for a while. It's been a day, and I'm exhausted. I think about all the things I've had to let go of. Trips I wanted to take. Hobbies I used to love. Even small pleasures, like getting my hair done or treating myself to a new book, feel out of reach. I've learned to say no to things, to cancel plans, because I can't justify the cost. I tell myself it's temporary, that things will improve. But deep down, I'm starting to wonder if that's just a lie I tell myself to make it through another day. I know I'm not alone in this. I know that there are millions of people out there feeling the same weight I feel. It's a shared struggle. But that doesn't make it easier. If anything, it just makes it harder, because I look around and wonder how anyone manages to get by. How do people make it work when the world feels like it's getting more expensive, more demanding, every single day? I go to bed that night with my thoughts swirling, trying to quiet my mind so I can sleep. But the anxiety is always there, lurking just beneath the surface. I wonder how much longer I can keep up the pace. How much longer I can keep pretending that everything is okay when it feels like I'm barely holding it together. And then I wonder, what if it never gets better? What if this is just how life is now, a constant struggle to keep up with rising costs and sinking wages? What if my dreams were always too big for a world that's just getting more expensive and less forgiving? I don't know the answer. But for tonight, all I can do is close my eyes and try to sleep, hoping that tomorrow will bring something better. Anything. I used to think that adulthood would feel more stable. Not perfect, not easy, but at least manageable. Instead, most days feel like I'm running uphill with a backpack full of bricks, and someone keeps adding more. I'm 27. I rent a one-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood that used to be affordable, but now it just pretends to be. The walls are thin enough to hear my neighbor cough, and I can't run the microwave and the toaster at the same time without flipping a breaker. I work full-time in customer service at a tech company, technically a salaried position, which sounds good on paper, but it comes with no overtime, minimal benefits, and pay that hasn't kept up with the price of eggs, gas, or literally anything. Every morning, I calculate how much of the day's choices are dictated by money. Do I take the bus and save on gas, even if it makes me 40 minutes late for therapy? Do I skip therapy altogether because my insurance barely covers anything anyway? Do I grab a coffee, or does that extra $5 mean I can't cover a copay next week? I used to think budgeting would help me feel more in control. Instead, it's just a different way of measuring scarcity. Groceries are a strategic operation now. I plan meals like I'm running a military campaign. Meat is a luxury, cheese is a treat, and fresh produce is a guilty pleasure. I stretch everything, freeze leftovers, water down juice. There's a kind of quiet shame in standing at the self-checkout line, internally praying that my debit card doesn't get declined over a $3 difference. I have about $9 in student loan debt. Not the worst, not the best. Just enough to hang over me like a ceiling I can't punch through. I've been on the income-based repayment plan for 3 years now. Every month, I pay just enough to feel it, but not enough to see the number move. Sometimes I wonder if I'll still be paying this off in my 50s, if I'll still be playing this same game of catch-up until I die. My dreams used to be bigger. I wanted to go into social work. I wanted to help kids like me, the ones who grew up watching their parents juggle bills like flaming knives. But grad school felt like adding weight to an already sinking boat. So I shelved it. I tell people I'm taking time to gain experience, but really I just can't afford it, not the tuition, not the time, not the risk. There are days I think about moving in with my parents, just to hit a reset. But they're barely scraping by themselves. I send them money when I can, even if it means skipping meals or delaying a bill. My mom always says, "Don't worry about us," but I do. I worry constantly. Worry's like a second job, unpaid, 24/7, with no benefits. I've become good at pretending everything's fine. At work, I smile through customer complaints, pretend I'm excited about team building events, and nod along in meetings where people talk about their ski vacations or home renovations. I've learned how to deflect questions about why I rent or why I still drive that old car. The truth feels too raw, too out of place. Nights are the worst. I lie awake thinking about rent increases, medical bills, the price of brake pads, and how I'm one unexpected emergency away from everything unraveling. There's no cushion. No safety net. Just this constant tension, like holding my breath all the time. I have coping mechanisms, sure. Some are healthy: I journal, I walk, I read when my brain isn't too fried. Others, not so much. I doom scroll. I self-isolate. I eat my feelings when I can afford to, and when I can't, I just suppress them. I've gotten good at tuning out, pretending I'm in control. But some days, the mask slips, and I just sit in the quiet and cry because it all feels too much. Still, I try to dream. Not the big dreams I had at 18, but smaller ones. I dream of a day when I don't have to check my bank account before buying a sandwich. Of having a real emergency fund. Of taking a weekend trip without feeling like I've committed financial sabotage. Of waking up without dread sitting on my chest. I want to believe in a future where stability isn't just for the lucky or the wealthy. Where people like me, hardworking, honest, trying, don't have to choose between mental health and rent, between food and dignity. I know I'm not the only one feeling like this. I hear it in the tired voices of my friends, in the quiet resignation of my coworkers, in the posts people make late at night when they think no one's watching. We're not lazy. We're not irresponsible. We're just stuck in a system that keeps moving the goalposts while telling us we're not running fast enough. I still hope. That's the one thing I refuse to let go of. Maybe it's naive. Maybe it's all I have. But I hold on to it tightly, hope that things will get better, that we'll be seen, that we'll stop being collateral damage in an economy that doesn't seem to value us. So yeah. I'm still here. Still fighting. Still hoping. Still human. I'm 27, and money is the first thing I think about when I wake up and the last thing on my mind when I go to sleep. It's not even about wanting a lot of it, I just want enough to breathe. But somehow, even that feels like too much to ask. I work full-time, 40 hours a week at a marketing agency. On paper, it sounds decent, a salaried job, benefits, even a little PTO. But in practice? My rent takes nearly half my paycheck. Groceries have gotten absurd. I used to buy organic eggs, now I just buy whatever's cheapest, and even that sometimes feels like a splurge. I cut my own hair. I canceled Netflix. I layer up instead of turning on the heat. I haven't bought new clothes in over a year. What kills me is that I'm doing everything I was told to do. I went to college. I have a degree. I show up on time, work hard, hit my deadlines. I network. I freelance on the side. I budget. But no matter how hard I hustle, it's like I'm running on a treadmill, sweating, exhausted, but going nowhere. Some days, I feel ashamed for even struggling. I look around and it seems like everyone else has it figured out: engagement announcements, housewarming parties, vacations in Italy. I scroll through Instagram and it feels like I'm watching a different reality, one I wasn't invited to. It's like there was a secret memo handed out on how to actually succeed in this system, and somehow I missed it. Most of my decisions these days are shaped by what I can't afford. I say no to dinners out with friends, not because I don't want to go, but because I can't justify spending $30 on pasta when that's 3 days of food if I shop smart. I pass on weddings, skip the baby showers, and I haven't been home to visit my family in over a year. Flights are just too expensive, and unpaid time off is a luxury I can't afford. I feel the distance growing, emotionally and physically, from the people I love. And I hate that money, something so cold and impersonal, is dictating the closeness of my relationships. I live in a studio apartment with peeling paint and paper-thin walls. My upstairs neighbor works night shifts and stomps around like he's training for a marathon. I hear his TV, his fights, his coughs. Sometimes, I sit on my little second-hand couch and just stare at the wall, wondering if this is it, if this is what being an adult means now, surviving instead of living. I wanted to be a writer. That was the dream. I used to stay up late writing short stories, half-finished novels, poems no one would ever read. But dreams require time, and time feels like a currency I'm always out of. After work, after freelancing, after worrying, all I have left is enough energy to crawl into bed. The dream waits on a shelf I'm not tall enough to reach anymore. There are moments when I feel angry. Not just at my situation, but at the system that created it. How did we get here? How is it that wages have barely moved in years, but rent keeps climbing, healthcare costs are out of control, and student loans feel like a punishment for trying to better yourself? I remember my mom telling me when I was younger, go to college, work hard, and you'll be okay. She said it with such certainty. And maybe it was true for her generation. But for me, it feels like a cruel joke. I cope in little ways. I write when I can, even if it's just a paragraph a week. I take long walks to clear my head. I try to remind myself that I'm not the only one feeling this way, even if it feels incredibly isolating sometimes. I found comfort in online communities, forums and subreddits where people talk openly about their financial struggles, their burnout, their quiet despair. There's something oddly healing about knowing someone else out there is also eating rice and beans again for the third night in a row because payday is still 5 days away. Therapy is out of the question, it's not covered by my insurance and costs more than I can swing. So I journal. I cry in the shower. I vent to my one friend who's in the same boat, and we laugh at the absurdity of it all. We're young professionals, we joke, living the dream. But the laughter is often a cover for something heavier. And yet, despite all this, there's still a stubborn flicker of hope in me. I don't know where it comes from. Maybe it's because I've made it this far. Maybe it's because even though I've had to let go of certain dreams, new ones are forming, smaller, more attainable ones. Like being able to afford a one-bedroom apartment. Or paying off my credit card in full 1 month. Or maybe, someday, taking a real vacation. I think about the life I want, stability, peace, time to create, time to rest. I don't need extravagance. I just want to stop constantly calculating and recalculating what I can afford. I want to go to bed without a pit in my stomach about bills. I want to believe that this effort, this grinding day after day, will eventually mean something. Until then, I keep going. I wake up, make my instant coffee, clock in. I remind myself that surviving is still a form of resistance. That dreaming, even quietly, is still a kind of rebellion. And I hold on to the hope that maybe, one day, the system will shift, or I'll find a way to bend around it without breaking. Because I'm still here. And that has to count for something. It's like living under constant weight. Not the kind you can just shrug off, but a weight that settles deeper with every passing day, squeezing a little tighter until it feels like there's no room left to breathe. I don't know if other people feel it the same way, but I'm sure they do. I can see it in their eyes sometimes, in the way they rush past me on the street or avoid talking about what's really going on beneath the surface. I'm 26, just barely making ends meet. At least, that's what I tell myself when I catch my reflection in the bathroom mirror and try to talk myself out of the panic that rises in my chest every time I think about money. It's always there, isn't it? The bills. The rent. The student loans. The looming threat of an unexpected medical bill or car repair. It's not like I don't work hard. I do. I have a job that's just okay, a job I can't stand most days but that somehow manages to keep the lights on. It's not a dream job. Hell, it's not even a good job. But it pays, and right now, paying is the only thing that matters. I think about the things I could have done, the places I could have gone, the person I thought I'd be by now. But when you're living paycheck to paycheck, the future is like a distant star. It's always there, but it's so far out of reach that all you can do is stare at it and wonder what it would feel like to actually touch it. My parents tell me to keep pushing forward, to just keep doing what I'm doing, and maybe things will improve. They don't get it. They don't understand that every single day is a decision, a weighing of costs, a trading off of one dream for another just to make it through the week. I could go out with friends, but that costs money. I could try to save for a vacation, but that feels like a joke when there's no cushion to fall back on. So, I postpone. And I keep postponing. At work, it's always the same grind. I'm the go-to person in the office, the one who fixes problems and picks up extra work when someone else drops the ball. Some days I don't even know why I do it. Maybe it's the hope that one day someone will notice all the extra hours I'm putting in and offer me a raise. But honestly, I'm not sure a raise would make much of a difference. I've read about inflation, I know what it means to feel like you're drowning while everyone else seems to keep rising. Rent goes up every year. Gas prices spike, groceries cost more, and utilities feel like they're constantly inching higher. And my paycheck? It's the same, if not less, when taxes are taken out and benefits are deducted. The system is broken, but I can't even begin to imagine how to fix it. Some nights, I lie in bed and close my eyes, trying to picture what it would feel like to live without this constant, gnawing worry. I dream of getting a new car, one that isn't falling apart, but then I remember the monthly payment and the insurance that comes with it. I dream of moving into a better apartment, one with windows that actually open, or a kitchen with more than one counter space. But then, I check my bank account, and it's like a slap in the face. There's not enough for that. There's never enough for that. And even when I try to escape, there's the crushing reality of all the things I've given up. I used to think I'd go back to school. I used to think I'd get a master's degree in something, anything, that would help me climb out of this hole. But who can afford that now? The loan payments I'm already making feel like they'll haunt me forever. College wasn't supposed to be like this. I was supposed to be on my way to something bigger, something more meaningful. Instead, I'm here, stuck in a loop of debt and frustration, telling myself it's just temporary, that I'll make it through, that one day I'll be able to breathe again. Most days, I just keep my head down. I don't ask for help, don't talk about it much. There's this shame, you know? Like I'm somehow failing at life because I'm not where I thought I'd be. I have friends who are doing okay, or at least they pretend to be. They talk about their latest vacations, their home renovations, their plans to buy houses. I smile, nod, and offer my congratulations, but inside, I'm breaking. I'm trapped in a system that makes it seem like I'm just one step away from everything collapsing, like I'm constantly running to stay in the same place. Sometimes, I let myself hope. I let myself dream about what life might be like without the pressure. I imagine being able to pick up and go wherever I want, no strings attached. I picture myself traveling, writing that novel I've always wanted to write, or learning to play guitar. But the reality of the numbers always pulls me back. The student loans, the rent, the bills. I wonder if I'll ever have the chance to chase any of those dreams, or if they'll just keep slipping through my fingers like everything else. And then there are the moments where I question everything. Is it worth it? The constant stress, the days where it feels like I'm drowning in numbers and responsibilities? I wonder if anyone else feels this trapped, this stuck, or if it's just me, if I'm somehow failing. Sometimes, I can't even tell if it's the economic environment that's dragging me down or if it's just me, my own sense of being unworthy or not measuring up. The truth is, I don't know what the future holds. Some days, that thought terrifies me. I can't picture it. All I see is a series of unending days, the same cycle of work, pay, and struggle. I wonder if I'll ever make it to a place where I can just be. where I can breathe without feeling like I'm on the edge of something breaking. But then there's a small part of me, a tiny voice deep inside, that tells me to keep going. It's faint, almost a whisper, but it's there. Maybe things will get better. Maybe they won't. But for now, I just have to survive. And I will. Somehow, I'll keep going, because there's no other choice. But it doesn't make the weight any lighter. It doesn't make the uncertainty any less painful. It just makes it bearable. I don't know what my future will look like, but I do know this: I can't keep postponing everything. One day, I'll have to take a chance. Maybe I'll find a way out of this cycle. Maybe I won't. But until then, I'll keep pushing forward, one step at a time. And maybe, just maybe, I'll find a way to breathe again. It's 7 a.m., and the first thing I do is grab my phone. Every morning starts the same way now, checking the bank app. I used to look at my phone for news or a weather update, but now it's just to make sure I have enough to get through the day. Today's balance isn't great. In fact, it's about the same as yesterday, barely anything, but just enough to get by. I don't know how many days I can keep living like this before I'll break. I get out of bed and feel the weight of the day settling on my shoulders already. It's an exhausting kind of weight, like I'm always carrying something invisible that's draining the life out of me. I'm 27. I've been working for years, but it still feels like I'm constantly falling behind. The bills keep piling up, and every time I think I'm finally going to catch my breath, the costs rise again. Rent goes up. Gas prices spike. Grocery store totals have doubled. And no matter how hard I try to save or how many sacrifices I make, I'm not getting ahead. I stumble into the bathroom, splash some water on my face, and try to wake up. But the truth is, I never feel awake anymore. Not really. Not when everything I do is just to survive the next day. My mornings are spent scrolling through job listings, hoping I'll find something that'll give me the extra income one need. I don't even care what kind of job it is anymore. I've applied for everything: side gigs, part-time, full-time, anything that might offer a little relief. But nothing. It's like I'm invisible to the world. At work, I try to push through the day, to focus on what I need to do, but it's hard to concentrate when I'm just thinking about what I'll have to do to make it through the month. I start counting the days until my next paycheck, and it's always a struggle. Some days I'm terrified that the numbers won't add up. And those moments when I get an email from my landlord or see a new charge pop up on my credit card, my heart races. It's like a punch to the gut. I wonder how much longer I can keep it up. How much longer until I reach the breaking point? I've tried everything. I've cut out all the little luxuries I used to enjoy: dining out, shopping for new clothes, even going out for drinks with friends. I tell myself it's just temporary, that I'll get through this, but when your daily decisions are dictated by how much you can afford to spend, it gets old. You start to forget what it's like to live without that constant pressure hanging over you. The problem isn't that I'm not working hard enough, it's that the system just doesn't work in my favor. I'm stuck. And I don't know how to break free. The hardest part of it all is seeing the dreams I had slowly slip away. When I was younger, I thought I'd have more by now. I thought I'd have the freedom to travel, buy a house, maybe even start saving for retirement. I wanted to build a life for myself, to have the kind of stability my parents never had. But here I am, living paycheck to paycheck, wondering how I'll make it through the next month. It's hard to even think about the future when I'm so focused on surviving the present. I used to dream about taking a vacation, visiting new cities, exploring the world. Now, those dreams feel like a distant memory, something I put on hold, maybe forever. Every time I see a friend post a picture from a trip they took, I can't help but feel this mixture of envy and sadness. I wish I could be doing that too, but it's impossible. I can barely afford a cup of coffee without stressing over how it'll impact my budget. Sometimes, I feel like I'm missing out on life. I used to be spontaneous, excited about the future, but now I can barely make plans because I don't know what my financial situation will be in the next week or month. Everything feels uncertain, unstable. But even though I feel trapped, I keep moving forward. I keep waking up every day, pushing through the anxiety, trying to figure out how to get by. I cope by distracting myself, watching Netflix, scrolling through social media, making endless to-do lists. But it's all just temporary relief. It doesn't fix the underlying problem, that the system is broken, and no matter how hard I try, I'm not getting any closer to the life I thought I'd have. I've started to realize that I'm not alone in this. So many of my friends are in the same boat. We all talk about how hard it is, how everything costs more than it did last year, how we're constantly fighting to stay afloat. The truth is, we're all just trying to survive. I've seen people get second jobs, cut back even further, and still not be able to make ends meet. It's a cycle we're all stuck in, and no one seems to have a way out. The emotional toll is the hardest part. I'm constantly tired, constantly stressed, constantly fighting this feeling of inadequacy. I feel like I'm failing, even though I know I'm doing everything I can. But it's never enough. And that's the hardest part to admit, the part where you realize that no matter how hard you work, it might never be enough to escape the weight of financial insecurity. Sometimes, I wonder what would happen if I just stopped trying. If I let myself collapse under the pressure, would anyone even notice? But then I remember I don't have that luxury. I can't give up. Not when I've already sacrificed so much to get this far. So I keep going. I keep working, keep hoping that one day, things will get better. But some days, it feels like they never will. I try to hold on to the belief that maybe one day, I'll get the break I need. Maybe one day, I'll be able to look back at this time and see how far I've come. But right now, it's hard to see past the bills, the debts, the constant grind. I'm doing my best, but sometimes, it feels like my best isn't enough. And I don't know how long I can keep pretending that it is. I wake up to the sound of my phone buzzing. It's 6:30 a.m., my alarm clock. I hit snooze, and for a brief moment, I lie there in the stillness, thinking of nothing, just feeling the weight of the blankets on my body. I tell myself I have a few more minutes to rest, but deep down, I know I can't afford that luxury today. Every morning feels like a race against time and money, two things that are constantly slipping away from me no matter how hard I try to hold on to them. It's been a while since I've felt at peace with my financial situation, and it's been even longer since I could honestly say I'm looking forward to the future. The pressure has only grown heavier, like a slow-moving storm cloud that's always overhead, threatening to burst. I've tried everything to make ends meet. I've taken on side gigs, cut out almost every unnecessary expense, and even tried budgeting using apps that never seem to offer the magic solution they promise. But still, every month, my income doesn't stretch far enough. The rent is due, utilities are rising, and don't even get me started on grocery prices. Every time I look at my bank account, I'm reminded of how small it feels in a world that keeps inflating everything. I drag myself out of bed, hoping that today will be better. But in the back of my mind, I know it won't be. Not really. Maybe I'll have a better day at work, or maybe I'll get an unexpected tip, but even then, it's just a temporary patch on a problem that keeps growing. I grab my phone again and check my bank balance for the 100th time in the last week. The number barely budges, and I don't know whether to laugh or cry. I do neither. It's too familiar by now. I get ready for work quickly, there's no time for anything more than a rushed breakfast and throwing on something that doesn't look too bad. I'm lucky I have a job, I know that. But some days it feels like I'm trapped in an endless loop, caught between the pressure of surviving and the weight of my own unspoken dreams. When I leave my apartment, the familiar grind of the city greets me. Crowded streets, people hurrying to get where they need to go, the sounds of honking cars and voices blending together into an overwhelming hum. I used to love this city. I remember the excitement I felt when I moved here. Everything felt possible. But now, it's like I'm just one of many, a small speck on a map that's more concerned with its own survival than anything else. At work, it's no different. The tasks are mind-numbing, repetitive. I put on a smile for the customers, try to keep things light, but inside, it's hard to shake the feeling that I'm running on empty. It's hard to explain to anyone how suffocating it feels. How when you're constantly worrying about how to pay the next bill, there's no room left for anything else. There's no space for joy. There's no space for anything but survival. My coworkers are in the same boat. We talk about everything, how we can't make rent this month, how we all hope the next paycheck will be the one that finally takes the pressure off, how we're tired but just can't stop working. We joke about it, but there's nothing funny about it. I watch people around me, and I see the exhaustion in their eyes. It's the same exhaustion I feel, the same weight that has slowly but surely made its home in my chest. I try not to dwell on it, but every so often, my mind drifts to what I've had to give up. I had dreams, once, dreams of traveling, of writing a book, of maybe one day owning my own place and not having to worry about the rent. But with every passing day, those dreams feel more like distant stars, too far to reach, fading further away as I focus on paying off the credit card bill or figuring out how I'm going to manage without getting into even more debt. I've had to postpone so many things. That vacation I wanted to take? Gone. The small savings I'd hoped to have for a rainy day? Spent on an emergency medical bill I didn't see coming. I'd love to even just take a weekend off and recharge, but I can't afford it. There's always something that needs to be paid. There's always something I have to sacrifice. Even my emotional well-being is starting to feel like a luxury I can't afford. I used to be the person who would make time for self-care, an hour at the gym, a nice hot bath, a good book, but now, I barely have the energy to cook a meal that isn't instant noodles. I don't have time for myself anymore. I can't afford it. Everything feels like a transaction. Every choice I make feels like I'm gambling, trying to balance between what's urgent and what's necessary, trying to make sure I don't tip over into the abyss of debt. I've tried to talk about it with friends, but I hate burdening them. Everyone's struggling in their own way. The world feels like it's squeezing tighter and tighter, and it's hard to find the space to breathe. But even through the weight, there are moments that keep me going. Like last night, when I managed to snag a seat at a local cafe after work, with a coffee in hand and a few hours of peace. I sat there, staring out the window at the city, watching the sunset paint the sky in orange and pink. I thought about my dreams for a second, just for a second. I thought about how I used to believe in them, how I used to see them as part of my future. The thing is, I still do. Even though the dream seems a little more distant every day, it's still there. I still want to write that book. I still want to travel, even if it's just a weekend getaway somewhere quiet, away from the noise. I still dream of having my own space, a place that's mine, a place where I don't have to constantly fear the next financial crisis. I don't know how I'll get there, though. The path feels blurry, unclear, and right now, the only thing that matters is getting through today. But deep down, I know I have to keep going. I can't give up on those dreams, not even when they feel so far away. I can't let the constant pressure of money make me forget who I am and what I want. So, I keep working. I keep surviving. And maybe, just maybe, I'll find a way to make it through all of this, and when the storm clouds finally part, I'll still be standing. Maybe the future will come sooner than I think. Until then, though, I'll hold on to those dreams, quietly, like little sparks in the dark. Maybe they'll burn bright enough one day to light my way out. It's 3:45 a.m., and I can't sleep. Not because I'm busy with some late-night project or because I'm consumed with inspiration. It's because I'm lying awake, my mind spinning in circles, calculating, recalculating, how much do I have left? Can I afford the gas tomorrow? Rent is due in 2 weeks, and I don't have enough for it yet, not even close. I'm hoping something will change, some miracle, but I know, deep down, there's no miracle coming. There's just me, and this ever-growing list of things I have to pay for. The debt. The bills. The constant gnawing pressure that makes everything feel heavier every single day. I've tried to budget. I really have. I sit down with my phone, scrolling through apps that track every penny I spend, making sure I'm not overspending on stupid things like coffee or impulse purchases. But it feels like every time I get a grip on it, something else comes up. My car broke down last month. Another $300. A medical bill that was supposed to be covered by insurance showed up, and I had to scrape together what I could to pay for it. The electricity bill jumped this month because it's been so hot, and I can't keep the AC off or I'll literally sweat through the night. I try to be logical about it. I remind myself that everyone is struggling. My friends are posting about their jobs, their new apartments, their vacations, living in a world that seems just out of reach for me. They don't seem to have the same anxiety, the same weight on their shoulders that I carry every single day. But I'm happy for them. Really, I am. It's just hard to ignore the gnawing feeling in the pit of my stomach when I see someone post about their new car, or their latest shopping spree, or their plans for the weekend getaway to the beach. I can't even afford to go visit my parents, let alone take a trip somewhere nice. It's not even that I'm living extravagantly. I'm not. I work 2 part-time jobs, trying to make ends meet, but it feels like the harder I try, the further away I get. My rent is almost half of what I make each month, and the rest is split between necessities, food, transportation, utilities. I can't even treat myself to something small. A new shirt, a nice meal out, a movie ticket, these feel like luxuries now. So, I don't. I've learned to settle for the bare minimum. I buy discount groceries, I keep my phone on the lowest plan possible, and I cancel anything I can. My friends are used to me being the one who always says, "Sorry, I can't afford it," but it still stings every time. I don't know when I stopped feeling like I was in control. I think it happened gradually, at first, when I was a teenager, when the idea of financial stability seemed like something everyone had. I thought I could do it all, work hard, save a little, buy a house, travel, invest in my future. But now, in my mid-20s, it feels like everything is slipping through my fingers. Each paycheck is already spoken for before it even hits my account. And it's only getting worse. Prices go up, rent, food, gas, insurance, and wages stay stagnant. The gap between what I make and what I need to live is growing faster than I can keep up. It's like I'm running in place, trying to outrun this wave of bills and fees and unexpected expenses, but it's always one step ahead. I used to dream about the future. I'd imagine buying a house, getting a dog, having a family, even traveling, maybe hiking in the mountains, or road tripping across the country. But those dreams feel further and further away, like they're just out of my reach. They aren't real anymore. I can't afford them. Every time I think about the future, I'm reminded of the crushing reality that I'm stuck. There's no room for these dreams in the life I have now. I think about quitting my second job sometimes. It's a job I hate, but it's one that helps keep me afloat. But I know if I quit it, I'd be in even worse shape. The guilt I feel every time I want to take a day off is overwhelming. I can't afford to rest. I can't afford to get sick. If I don't work, I don't eat. It's as simple as that. I wonder what it would be like to just stop working, just to take a break and not feel like I'm drowning in my own debt. But even that feels selfish. There are people who have it worse than me. I remind myself of that constantly. I'm not living on the streets. I'm not starving. I have a roof over my head. But it doesn't change the fact that I feel suffocated. That I'm losing pieces of myself just trying to stay afloat. Some days, I cry. Not because of some big emotional breakdown, but because it feels like there's nowhere to turn. There's no escape. My friends tell me I'll get through it, that things will get better. They say I'm so strong, but I don't feel strong. I feel weak. I feel like I've been broken down by a system that's not designed to let people like me thrive. It's designed to keep us struggling, to keep us in the cycle. Work harder. Earn more. Spend less. It's a game, but the rules are rigged, and I don't know how to win. I still have hope. I do. It's a small, quiet hope, buried deep down. Maybe one day things will change. Maybe one day I'll get a job that pays better, or I'll be able to save a little for the future. Maybe prices will stop climbing so fast. But there's this voice inside me that keeps reminding me, don't get your hopes up. Things have never been easy. They may never be easy. The hope I have now is the kind that feels fragile, like it could shatter with the next bill, the next unexpected cost. I tell myself I'm doing the best I can. I have to remind myself that it's okay not to have everything figured out. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm not giving up. I can't afford to give up. I think about the future sometimes, and even though it's full of unknowns, there's still a part of me that holds on to the thought that maybe, just maybe, things will get better. One step at a time. Maybe one day, I'll look back and see that I made it through all this. But for now, it's just me, my bills, and the ever-growing weight of being an adult in a world that's designed to make survival feel like an uphill battle. For tonight, though, I'll get some sleep. Tomorrow is another day to keep going, even if it feels like I'm standing still. Even if it feels like I'm drowning. I have to keep moving. Because what else is there? Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.